But let's see what happens when it comes up. It's kind of
So you're going to make us on video on YouTube?
not right yet, but maybe. I think he's got a video of it. So give it just another. Oh, can you kill that light? Ooh, he's gonna grab it. Could be. Oh, it's got a thing. Excellent. Okay. Is that all right? If you're in the corner, or you can come over here. I mean, if that's good, we can.
It's good for y'all.
Can I make it a full? What do I do to make it a full screen?
Since
F-
you've got the viewer, try F11.
Try F11.
No,
Control F11. F10.
no, see, you're using a viewer,
Yeah.
and I have PowerPoint, so
Okay.
there's actually a button for it. But that, yeah, that's good.
It's fine.
You might, I don't know if it's my eyesight or focus, but it looks out of focus.
Can people see that? Woo! How's that? Better?
Good enough.
Good enough. So I'm Steve Cantor. I think most everybody knows me. If you haven't already gotten some food and drink or whatever, please help yourself. And we're pleased to have Gary Wiseman here today from Master IT. Going to talk to us about cybersecurity. Take it away, Gary.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
Sure.
Before we begin, I just wanted to give you just a quick overview of who is Master IT. I've been in the technology industry for over 20 years. I've had my own business going on 18. That doesn't sound right now, 15. So Master IT, we're a managed service provider, so we're kind of like the infrastructure specialists. We monitor, manage, and remediate issues 24/7 around the clock. Kind of divided up into 4 blocks. You've got your infrastructure, plumbing, you've got support for end users, and you've got your strategy for taking things from what if to what could become. Under the centralized services is where we do patch management, updates, 24/7 monitoring management. If things go wrong in the night, we'll remediate those issues before it impacts your business tomorrow morning. In the network administration, well, I'll tell you what, let me talk about end user support. That would be your service desk. We're a little unique in this area. Our engineers that sit on the service desk are MCSEs, VMware certified, firewall certified. So they're more your level 2, level 3 can handle any problem that comes in on the service desk. Most of my competition can do both of these. This is pretty much status quo. They both offer this. Where we're unique is the network administration and the consulting. Under network administration, we have a process called my IT process. I've got about 28 categories, and in those 28 categories, they cover every single aspect of a network. We have 400 questions that we've developed over the last 15 years. They go through security, patching, updates, stability. If we implement that best practice on any network, we can give them a certain level of guarantee that they just will have far fewer problems and won't have calls. So that's kind of our secret sauce. And then on the technology consulting, we are outsourced fractional chief information officers to our clients. So they come to us and we help them plan, we do strategy, we do consulting, we do training, and that's what Master IT provides in a nutshell. If you'll go on to the next slide, we'll get into the cybersecurity. So I'm going to talk about some statistics and these statistics change every single week. I'm on half a dozen cybersecurity threads from the U.S. government. We have partnered with the FBI. We are doing consulting back and forth with them, and the numbers are growing by leaps and bounds. We're going to show you a slide on hacked companies. You'll be surprised, or maybe you won't be surprised. A lot of these you've heard about in the news. We're going to talk about some phishing. I've got a phishing quiz, time permitting. that we can walk through. So how do you recognize what is actually a legitimate email versus what is junk? What are the most common ways companies are hacked? 95% of all breaches are preventable or were preventable. It's just that they didn't do what they should have been doing. We'll talk about that. The skimmers. Everybody know what's it? Do y'all know what a skimmer is? Okay, a skimmer, I'm going to show you some pictures of it, but a skimmer is a device that you slide over a credit card machine like at an ATM, a gas station. And what it is, it looks just like where you put your credit card, but instead of feeding the information to the gas station, it feeds it to a scammer who then takes the magnetic card that you put in there, reads all your information, gets your PIN code, and then rips off your identity and your bank account. And so I'm going to show you pictures. You can't tell the difference. It's getting more sophisticated. Passwords, complexity, password management. I don't know about y'all, but I can barely remember what I had for breakfast, let alone my I've got, I don't know, 375 different passwords between my company and personal life, and I don't use the same password for anything. And I know that sounds crazy. It is crazy, but because the way the technology is changing, the new hacks, this is the new normal. You can't just keep using the same password day in, day out. Social media, talk about some do's and don'ts as it relates to hacking. You'll be amazed at what you'll find on social media and how people, data miners, use social media to gain access to your information. So, by the way, before we begin, how many of you know of someone that's had their identity stolen? It's happened to you, happened to your family member, or in any business? Show of hands.
Yep.
Yeah, half the group. I mean, it's getting worse. I was at a symposium with the Chief Information Security Officer for Federal Express, and she said, her name's Denise Wood, she said it's not if you get hacked, it is when. And who is susceptible today? Everyone in this room is susceptible. Why? It's not like they're targeting you or you. It's because the tools that I can now purchase on the dark web, everybody knows what the dark web is? Google indexes about 2% of all the content on the World Wide Web. The dark web is the other 98%. What you see in Google and all the search engines, that only touches a small fraction of what's actually there. I can buy viruses, I can buy malware, they come with tech support today. I just tell them how many computers I want to infect. They guarantee a certain amount of percentage of infection rate. If it doesn't infect that many, I just call tech support and they tell me what I did wrong. It's ridiculous what I can get in the dark web to hack and do and get into systems. So status quo, saying this is never going to happen to me, I hear that a lot. Why do I need to worry about that? Is no longer an option. Maybe 10 years ago. Matter of fact, does anybody remember the year the iPhone came out? Hard to believe. Anybody? 2004. And look how far we have come in just mobility. Matter of fact, that's given away to a lot of the breaches is through the mobility traffic. 80 million people had their personal information stolen. That was through Anthem, one of the largest security breaches ever. The Sony cyber attack, that's still coming out, by the way. You just don't hear it because our news has gone on and shifted something else. 38 million files were downloaded and compromised from that, and they're still leaking those out. There was a trade dispute going on, and a hacker got a hold of that and stole 7,000 passwords. This is an interesting number. Back 10 years ago or more, you used to hear about hack attempts from kids that were in their teens, early 20s, staying up all night learning how to do that. So it was kind of crime of opportunity. It has shifted to organized crime. So now in Russia, United States, all of our countries, you go to work You have full benefits, paid vacation, and what you get paid to do is hack. That's a full-time job. We have sanctioned it in the United States. I don't know if you saw in the recent news that Homeland Security is now hacking U.S. companies, and so that they can share the information with them, not in a bad hack, it was a good hack, to show them where they're exposed so that they can prevent the hack. The United States is very susceptible to power grid hacking, and we're taking actions and steps with Homeland Security right now to prevent that, because if they shut down the grid, it would more or less immobilize us. Next slide. Every 2 seconds, that's actually increasing over the last couple of years to every second worldwide somebody's identity is getting stolen. And we saw a show of hands. My wife's had it, not the full identity, but her credit card has. And it's getting easier and easier. And that's one of the things I was talking to you about social media. So when you sign up, well, I'll tell you what, I'll wait till get to that site because it's interesting what people do next. So I think you recognize some of these companies, but there's one company on here that should draw your attention more so than all the rest. What do you think it is? Experian. Why? I mean, TransUnion, all of those. It's got everything. They were hacked. Hilton was breached. Michaels, today it doesn't matter. Just think of it this way, and why I put this slide up here. These are companies that have millions of dollars to invest in their security practice compared to us, and we don't have that kind of money. So how do we prevent this type of stuff if they can't even prevent it? Well, I have some good news, and that is 95% of it is preventable. Every one of these got hacked because of something they could or should have done. So, next slide. Do you have internet?
Yep.
Let's click on this
Okay.
if we can, and we'll go through this quickly. But this is one way a lot of people get hacked. Zero-day vulnerabilities, viruses, malware, spear phishing. People are clicking links in emails that can compromise the system, and they just don't realize it. So start quiz. All right, so let's, and then just drag your bar down. So take a quick look over here. Slide down. Just slide down so we can see the rest of this. So, how do we know this is a legitimate or a phishing email? Anybody have any ideas on how do you know?
There are many ways.
Yeah, there are several ways for sure. Do you know which way?
Oh yeah, I would go with what email address it was sent to me of mine, whether it includes my actual name or account information in it, and I would mouse over the buttons and look at the destination URL, and also even at the top of the email in the header it has an e.link in. And you could have a 1 for an I and spoof LinkedIn. I'm sure everybody has that. But
Okay.
there are many.
So he brought up some really good things. I'm not sure if everybody could hear him, but sometimes people will spoof your web address. So I'm master-it.com. I'm getting ready to do a little hack attempt against my own staff, and it's a test. And I'm going to register. I already have master-il.com because the L looks so close to the T, it's hard to pick it out. I'm going to set up fake email accounts from my CEO, myself, and we're going to send it to our staff to see if they're going to reply to it. So that's one way. Another way he said is if you mouse over links like those. Steve, if you mouse over down here.
Yeah.
When you mouse over a link like that, it's going to show you, and I can't read that, but it's going to show you the web address that is actually going to go back to if you click a link. So every time you mouse over it, that's one way. And so if this was LinkedIn, or what is this?
It's LinkedIn.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So if it's LinkedIn, then this website can't say XYZ Uganda, because it's going to be so far off you're going to recognize that, and that's how you can tell.
And it's very important you make sure there's not a dot after the .com, Because somebody could set up a linkedin.com.myspoofdomain.com.
Exactly. So by mousing over, looking at it, reading through it, what does this mean? It just means you have to pay more attention before you just blindly click a link in an email. And you know the one way to get 100% on all these? Just if you're not sure, delete it.
Yeah.
But it's amazing how many people won't do a simple task like that and they click it and then they're exposed. So I think that's legitimate. I can't remember, but we'll say legit so we can move on to the next one. This next one is from JP Morgan Chase. I'm sure many of y'all have seen these. They come from the banks and the credit card companies. There's a telltale sign right off the bat on this one. Anybody want to know what it is? It contains a zip file. Your bank credit card will never in your history send to you a zip file. So that's another easy one to do, and you can mouse over that too. Right here is an attachment. It says message, and then it has what's like a picture of an attachment, and it says .zip. So your bank, credit card, 401k will never send you attachments. That's a telltale sign. They just don't do it. They're never going to ask you for information. If they do, you're going to have to pick up the phone. Never give that back in a website. Ever, ever. Matter of fact, I was doing a recent joint effort with the FBI, and the agent from the FBI asked me for my Social Security and was about to write it down on a piece of paper, and I said, absolutely not. I will not give you my Social Security for you to write down on a piece of paper. It's going back to your office. He said, okay, we'll move on. I said, because that's not going to happen. So little simple tricks like that. So I'd say phishing next, and we'll go through the rest of these pretty quick, but you get the idea. This one's from the credit card company. I do want to show one if we can see it. Hover over one of these. What is
Hover
this
over
from?
the.
Oh, well, there you go. You can tell who it's from. Not even related. So, or is,
Yep.
yeah. So that would be phishing. Corporate e-fax. Yeah. More or less phishing, but we could scroll down and do it. But you kind of get the idea. We won't go through the rest of these, but anything that you hover over, read from that email address.
It's harder on a mobile device.
It is. I will tell you one, and we're probably going to bounce back over to the thing because there's like 4 or 5 more of these.
Okay.
Y'all may have heard of this one where, and they have gotten much more sophisticated. They spoofed the CEO's email account, and it's unfortunate, great guy, great company in Memphis, Tennessee, was taken for $9 million. He got his email spoofed. They sent it to the right person in the company that handles all their wire transfers, and he processes wire transfers pretty religiously every single week. And it wasn't unusual to get that, probably a little on the high side. She didn't question it, transferred, got wiped out. One of our clients got his email spoofed, sent it to the CFO for a wire transfer. She went to reply to challenge it, but as soon as she did, it went to another email address outside the company that she didn't recognize. That caught her attention. So they got in touch with us. How can we prevent it? And there are ways to prevent it, 2 ways. One's called an SPF record, Sender Policy Framework. All it is something that sits at your domain level. So master-it.com, I implement this, and what it does, it guards against that type of attack. It's got to be managed. And there's one other one called DMARC. That's much more intensive. And so every time we figure out a way to stop it, they figure out a way around it. So it's a constant back and forth battle. So remember when I said 95% of all these hacks are preventable? The top 2 or 3 reasons all those companies got hacked: they did not patch their systems, they did not keep up with their security updates, they did not keep up with their firewall updates, the Windows updates. Matter of fact, we compromised the system, just a few weeks ago. They had a 2003 server, as many of you know, that's expired. Microsoft does not patch, does not do any security updates. They left the guest account accessible. I got into the guest account, ran some other commands at that level, gave myself domain admin rights, and I was in their system, into their accounting and everything. It only took me an hour, but it was not difficult. Passwords. The tools I have today could break an 8-character password 15 to 20 seconds. It does not take long. It's just brute force dictionary attacks, and people use the same passwords for everything. So my recommendation, this is a great takeaway, if you do online banking, credit card companies, or any type of financial institution, and you haven't changed your password in the last 3 months, I would change it today. And if you do that, and let's say you have 3 of those, I would not use the same password for each one of those, because if I get to you on one, I'll get to all the rest, and it won't take me very long to do that.
How many characters do you need to effectively limit people?
You should show the table.
Go back a slide, Steve. Yeah, so how many characters? I've got a slide on passwords. Let me answer that when I get to that, because it's going to address that. We talked about the bogus email attachments. People's websites are getting hacked. You know, so you've got a hosting provider hosting your website. Well, how do you know they've taken all the security measures to ensure that your website is protected? So everybody heard of Network Solutions, domain registrar? Well, we hosted some websites with them. I would think that's a reputable company, billions of dollars, lots of domains. But we had some sites that got hacked because they weren't keeping up their end. I shut down the websites and moved them. I'm like, you can't keep it up. I'll find somebody that can. End users and employees, another common way that people get hacked through social engineering. People pretend to be somebody else, be your friend, or they click links, or they pick up. I tell you what, a great trick that does work very well. We did this. We got a bunch of USB sticks and we put payroll on it, and we just left them lying around. And I tell you what, people's curiosity killed the cat. They pick them up, put them in their drive. Thank you very much. I'm in your system. And it's amazing how much that'll happen. Next slide. Yeah, I do want to show this. Click this link, because this is a better picture of the
top one?
skimmer. Bottom one. Yeah, it will, but it's in that homepage. So Krebs has been doing online reporting of security fraud for years and years and years. Scroll down. Oh yeah, Office of Personnel Management breach. And then they say if you freeze all your accounts, they can't monitor. This is crazy. But scroll down.
Trying.
There
we go.
Keep going. Right. Going. Going. More. Right here, a little bit more. Okay, that's good enough. So this is a legitimate gas station credit card slot. This is a skimmer sitting on top of the slot. The only difference is how far it protrudes out, but basically it looks the same. Some of the gas stations start putting red tape around it saying it hadn't been tampered, but I can peel the red tape off and put it on this one. So that wasn't good. Everybody started getting chips in their credit cards. How many of y'all have cards that have chips in it? Well, that's great if the vendor takes the chip. If they don't, what difference does it make? I will tell you something that is already through Congress. There will be no more magnetic strips here in the next 2 to 3 years. They're taking it off all credit cards. It's all going to go chip-based. It'll either go chip-based or it'll go two-factor authentication. Two-factor authentication means if I use the credit card, it'll automatically generate a 4-digit text that gets back to your phone. Then you have to key in that number, and it's a random number generator, so the code is always stamped, and that's how you authenticate. But I wanted to show you a picture of what a skimmer looks like. Yes.
The newest skimmers are actually inserted inside of them now.
Yes.
Because you can get the master keys online for cheap.
Correct.
Got great little pumps.
Yeah, there's only for all the gas stations that are out there. There's a dozen or less keys that fit them all. They just don't rotate the codes. And the other picture I had in that other link actually does show the skimmer that slides in. It's as thin as a credit card, and instead of inserting that, they just slide in that. The reason that they started using that is they embedded some SMS text messaging, so the thief never has to go back to the gas station. Now sends him all your information. Otherwise, he'd have to go back and pull his skimmer out, get the card out.
Quick question. Generally with the skimmers, does the transaction still occur at the pump?
You know, I don't know
Okay.
whether it does or not.
I think it does actually.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would think it does as well. That's if you're spoofing a network, for example, if your packets aren't sending, then so it wouldn't be a smart thief to not send the packets through.
Yeah, there was a traveler's alert just recently to Mexico, and the cartel had gotten a hold of the ATM technicians and started paying them $5,000 to go to all the ATMs and drop the skimmers in. So they supplied them with the skimmers, gave them some cash, and said, "Hey, just drop that in." And so a lot of Americans that were traveling down for vacation were getting taken in Mexico. Let's pop back over to the plaza.
Oh, back to.
Yeah.
Where are you, little mouse?
Alt tab.
Oh,
You can go to the next slide. So here's the password examples. So 8 digits used to be good enough. I would highly recommend 16 really, but 12 is definitely more secure. Passwords like this, I'm amazed at some of the sites that won't allow this, but a space is actually a character. So to say, I space, like to space, this is capitalized with the exclamation point, that's like an 84-bit encrypted password. Very, very difficult to break, but super easy to remember. And that's the problem. I can't remember, G at symbol R3 Q1. I can barely remember what I've got from even a file network. But all of these are very good. The other thing that you can do is substitute symbols for some of the letters. Still easier to remember if you can remember what the symbols are. But the longer the password, the better. For instance, this is interesting. So Intuit's got a major security flaw in their software. I do Quicken at home, and I have it synced to my bank, but it doesn't allow for special characters in my password. So I just thought that was crazy. So I extended it out. I tried to go 16 digits. It wouldn't take that either. I'm like, goodness gracious, this is not good. Some of the password managers that I recommend, I like 1Password better for most people because it's more intuitive. KeyPass is a little techy, but it's the one I use. So what I do is I have a KeyPass database on my laptop. It's encrypted. I do sync it with my devices, so it's on my iPhone, my iPad, my PC, or anywhere I can log in. I can get to it through the cloud. But people say, isn't that insecure? I say, yes, it is. But the folder it's in is also encrypted. So I have an encrypted database and an encrypted folder. If they get past that, well, welcome to my world.
What encryption tool are you recommend?
All right, so the encryption tool for KeyPass is built into it. It's a Blowfish AES 256-bit. If they get past that, here's the thing. You never, ever, ever see hackers breaking through a firewall with this type of encryption. You can't, not to my knowledge, can it be done today? There's way easier routes to break into systems without going brute force directly through the firewall when I can go around it. I mean, if somebody's got a guard dog and defense and electrical on their front door, why do I want to go in the front door when the window's open?
Yeah. Like Home Depot, when they were broken into, they actually went through the HVAC system.
Correct, because they had an unsecured, unprotected PC on that network that allowed that access. Let's see, there was another recent hack, and all the point of sale machines were running on a version of XP, never updated. And Jason and I were talking about this, Windows 7, 8.1, 10, they've all become so stable. I don't know about y'all, but I have a laptop. Half the time I just shut it, open it back up, shut it, open it back up. I never go through reboot cycles. If I don't do that, all your security patches, nothing gets applied. You have to go through a reboot. You have to shut it down. Google Chrome just released a massive security flaw yesterday or the day before. We checked Jason's laptop. It had been installed but not applied because you have to restart Google to get it to do it. Well, he leaves it open all the time. Not picking on him. But we're all guilty. We're all guilty of doing that and not shutting the systems down. So what we did for all of our clients, with their permission, we enforced automatic reboot policy. I don't care what you're doing, but at night, we recommend everybody leave it on 24/7, 365. I've never seen a PC really have that much more problem than turn it off and on. And we make them all reboot. We have to. So, and then the last one, there was a online called LastPass. Anybody heard of that?
Yeah, it got hacked.
3 times. So I don't recommend that.
So, I'll go, well, for example, I'll go to Norton and get passwords, because I have to come up with quite a few passwords throughout the day. And they'll give me something. Is that a good
Yeah,
way to do it if I know if I'm...
yeah, like a
maybe-
password generator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you can use one that you know and then just append it with a full sentence.
Yeah, putting exclamation point, @ pound at the end of the thing, that's shift 1, 2, 3. Just you got to make it more complex, less difficult to break into. So I think one of my next slides is social media.
But correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, if you do, at 1, 2, 3, and then add a sentence after that,
yeah.
then you have a strong
Oh
password.
yeah.
If it'll let you have
If you
many
can have
characters.
over 20 characters.
Yeah, and that's the thing it's difficult because some of them don't take it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it is the social media side. So, when you signed up for your banking software, did y'all remember answering or putting in security question answers? So, where were you born? Where did you meet your wife? What's the name of your first car? Or make and model? What's the name of your dog? Really?
It's all
So then you go to social media, and I look up Steve Cantor. Well, I know his name, dog's name's Spot, because Spot's all over the place. I know he got married here because it talks about it. Well, thank you for giving me all that information. Now I go back, I spoof his email, and I start answering all his... Matter of fact, Sarah Palin's account got hacked because of that mentality. Her email hacked, y'all remember that? Her Yahoo account?
He reached from Tennessee, I think.
Yeah, he got the security passwords by looking into her social media account and got all the answers. So I tell people from a social media perspective, be careful what you post. We did find this, I know you're going to laugh. They said, hey Steve, I'm going out of town for the weekend, and Steve's my next door neighbor. Here's my 4-digit code to my alarm system. Can you let my dog out? On social media. Of course, I'll leave it there. What else should you not? If you don't want the rest of the world to see it, you should never write it. Because once it's there, I don't care if it's Snapchat. And it's so funny, when my kids a few years ago started using Snapchat, I said, "Dad, that's secure. They'll never see it." They go, I've got Snapchat on. Send me a message. They send me a message. I screenshotted it off my phone. I go, okay, it's supposedly gone, right? What's that? And I'm like, what? Passwords and just the information that you store in social media on LinkedIn, Facebook, where you work, your phone number. This is another tip. Never post your pictures when you're out of town. Wait till you get back. Your wife's posting all these pictures. We're having a wonderful time in Florida with the whole family. It's hard to believe that we won't be back till Sunday. Wow. Thank you for a white-collar criminal. I know when you're coming back. I know they're all gone. If you want to post them, just post them when you get back. Had a great time in Florida. But it's amazing. Oh, also, for women, What do women post typically on Facebook in their name? Is their maiden name? That's the answer to most security questions, right? What is your maiden name, or what's your mother's maiden name? And they use that. Oh, I've got a great app called mypermissions.com. I read about this and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll give it a whirl. And found out what Facebook links to. And you know, Facebook, Zuckerberg is very intelligent. He wants Facebook to link to everything. Well, I found out it had linked to a lot of my stuff. There was 6 apps I was linked to through Facebook. And when I read what they had access to, they actually had access to all my contacts. I revoked every single one of them. I don't have Facebook linked to anything. And this is on my permissions for Android and iPhone. And it'll go and it'll search your profile. It'll tell you what you're linked to, what it has access to, and then you can revoke them all. So I went, did it, and revoked access to everything. Personal conversation, social plans, we talked about all that. Next. So what can you take away for businesses? Number one thing that we're doing now, mostly the financial sector, we already do this, is pen test, vulnerability risk assessment. Now I'm recommending it to every single client I've got. It's not an if, it's when. How do you know you're truly buttoned up? Well, we recommend getting a pen test performed on your company to find out if you're buttoned up or not. Multi-factor process in everything you do. I don't know if you guys use Google Apps, but if I log on to a new PC, I have to get a text before I can actually log in on Google. I would recommend implementing that. I did 2-factor authentication on my American Express account. Everything I can use 2-factor authentication is ideal. Firewall. People put in a firewall and they plug it in, forget about it. They don't ever update to the latest firmware. They don't update. It's just like a PC. It's just an appliance with software on it. And people just set it and forget it. Well, it's got vulnerabilities. If you don't have a plan to make sure all your routers, firewalls, switches, servers, and desktops are patched and up to date, you're exposed. Backup. Everybody familiar with ransomware virus? Heard of that? It's called Crypto Locker, Crypto Wall. What ransomware is they send you a virus, you get it, it encrypts everything, and then a ransom note comes up and says, okay, you owe us $1,000, and we'll send you the key code to decrypt your data. There's only 2 ways out of that. Pay it, or format and restore it from backup. That's the only 2 ways to get out of that. We've had clients, we have had people come to us with this, and we said, well, what's it worth to you? If it costs us $2,000, I say pay the $2,000, get the key code, and then we'll secure your system. If it's not, then you've got to restore from your backup. And then the other thing I will say about backup, people, and I've seen this for 20 years and it still happens today, people think that their data is backed up, but nobody ever does a test restore to see if it can be accessed. I can't tell you how many times it's happened. Unless I can get to it, I would assume it's not there. And if you're using tape, don't. Tapes wear out. Password policy. This is a policy that we implement for every single client. We do force passwords to change. The reason we have the biggest challenge here is mostly C-level people. They don't like change. They don't like, it's their culture. They want to use the same password for everything, and that's what I've used. I don't want to change it. Well, okay, then sign here. You're going to have to sign an indemnification form to protect us. If you get hacked, I can't be responsible for that. History, not using the same passwords. When you get up from the screen, does it get locked? All those should be done. Wi-Fi, people still break into Wi-Fi. You know, you put a new wireless router, so at home, everybody's got Wi-Fi networks at home. Bought it from Best Buy, plugged it in, worked out of the gate. You're a technical guru. Well, nobody changed the default username and password. I get into it. So do protect that. We talked about the desktop, laptop, antivirus. Still need to make sure that's up to date. We take over networks and we find that the desktops are relatively good, laptops, but there's nothing on the server. You got to have AV on the server as well. For companies that wire funds, never ever ever take an email from anybody for any reason to wire a fund without picking up the phone to verify that that's exactly what they want to do. And then we talked about the SPF record to decrease the amount of spoofs that you can spoof by me becoming you and sending emails on your behalf. And then I think the next slide, so personal, we talked about that. If you don't have a firewall at home, I would put one in. If you just bought the little Linksys wireless thing from Best Buy and think that that's a firewall, it's not. I mean, it does, I'll call it, it's like a little padlock on your front door. I can click that off really quick.
So I have like two different, like McAfee and then Super Spyware. Would that also be the firewall?
Yeah, because what McAfee and the Super Anti-Spyware does is it's allowing things to get to your system to start protecting you. What a firewall does is sits at the perimeter, like a shield around the house, to block everything from ever getting down to the computer. So yes, I would still recommend a firewall at that level.
So you buy that where you get it?
Yeah, you can get them online, you can get it on Amazon, you can go to Best Buy, they'll talk to you about them. Yeah. Usually, to do it halfway decent, do it right, I don't recommend doing it yourself. Get somebody that knows what they're doing to do it and set it up correctly. I don't know about you, but I have a backup at home. I use Carbonite. I trust it. I've used it many times to restore files because I delete things with my kids, my wife does. But if you don't, I would recommend doing that. We talked about that. Password on, oh, yeah, if you have a phone and you're not locking it, no, I wouldn't do that. Free Wi-Fi. Yeah, I do not ever recommend using free Wi-Fi if you're doing business. If you're just surfing the web. So, obviously they have free Wi-Fi here, right?
Yes.
So if I'm going to come in here, I'm going to make sure my Windows Firewall is on before I access their free Wi-Fi. Because I can do a port scan of everybody that touches their Wi-Fi network to see who's open on what. They now have wireless access points that prevent that. So,
And what would you say about using a VPN on free Wi-Fi?
just as long as your other security measures, your antivirus and all the other stuff, you're secure on your side, your firewall's open, I'd say there's some risk, but not as great.
Yep.
Teaching your children, they grow up in it, they don't have a clue. You should tell them about the things that can happen. Cyberbullying, the apps they use, you should be looking at, if you have small children, you should be looking at everything that they look at. Not because you don't trust them, just because you don't know what they're getting into. Oh yeah, this is something people overlook. So how many of y'all everybody have a computer at home? How many leave it up all the time? Yeah, it's very difficult to get into if it's not on. But if you do leave it up all the time, which I do, I have mine auto-update itself and I check it pretty regularly and I feel okay with that. Plus I have a firewall, plus I have all the other stuff. Antivirus is up to date. Don't let it expire. I see that a lot. They think that it's running, it expired 2 years ago. It doesn't work very well. We talked about all the social media. So, questions? Comments? This stuff is getting worse. And all this, we went to another presentation called the Internet of Things. So I'm sure you know Google bought Nest. Nest is your remote control thermostat. Well, now they're developing all the home products from light bulbs to everything that's all wireless Bluetooth, but they're all insecure. None of them have really implemented the security measures that they should be in that type of technology. So all I'd say is if you do use that, be aware that you need to investigate how secure is it really.
Some of them all share the same certificate.
Yeah. Oh, and this gentleman was talking about certificates. So when you go to a secure website like your bank, it's going to say HTTPS. The S stands for a secure certificate so that you know that the site is secure, and it'll have a little lock typically up in the title bar. But now they've learned how to slipstream malware into the secure certificate, so even that's now getting hacked. So if you do online transactions and you don't see the lock in the title bar, I would don't be putting your credit card information in there.
Or even your email address.
Yeah. It, you know, like I said in that first slide, it talked about 80% is organized crime. Well, that's growing by leaps and bounds. It's not the kids anymore. These people are after for payload. And here's the worst virus you can get. It's one that infects your system and there is no payload. You never even know it's there. And it just sits there. The one at Sony, I think, if I remember correctly, sat there for months before it started hitting a payload of all the things that it could find. It just sits there and accumulates data until they're ready to extract it all. And then there's a payload. And unless all your systems are buttoned up, there's no way to keep them out. Anything else? Questions? Helpful?
Absolutely.
Change your passwords today on your financial communications. We did this for a financial institution. They were doing a presentation for constituents and people investing with them, and we had people that hadn't changed their password for 2 years. You can't do that. You got to change it. And I wouldn't go ballistic and change passwords to everything, just where you bank, or credit card, or 401k. All right.
Thank you,
y'all
Gary.
very much.